Okay. So flowchart that doesn't work is what we're calling this. All right. So our starting point is that she's calm. That's our starting point on the whole thing, is she's calm. And the reason that that's important as our starting point is because somebody who's in that performance orientation, that flowchart mindset, is really holding out as the highest goal to get her back to calm. By her, we're talking about our wives, right? That's the starting point, and it's also the end point. The end game is absence of conflict might be intimacy. We don't want her upset. We don't want her angry. We don't want her frustrated, disappointed. We don't want any of that negative emotional stuff. And so the prize for some of us, that end game, is get us back to her being calm at all costs. Okay. Which hopefully, even as I'm saying that, hopefully you're realizing, like, you're conceptualizing, like, that's broken. That's not where we want to be living, right? So then the flowchart kicks in once she's hurt and angry. So as soon as she gets hurt and angry, as soon as there's some kind of triggering event, as soon as she just has an old memory, or the song plays on the radio, or you do something again, you act out again, you fumble with your words, you let out some truth that maybe you had been holding on to, or that you genuinely didn't remember. It doesn't matter. Something happens such that she is hurt and angry. And now we're in the flowchart, it's kicked in, and some of us go into a very mechanical mode at this point. And our first stop is, well, let me say that different. It's not our first stop. The first thing that kind of happens emotionally is like panic, right? Anxiety kicks in for us. And it's like that something is set in motion inside of us, where even before we, get angry, some of us, or retort or do anything, a lot of times that anxiety is kicked in, which is why our quadrant work is really important. Sometimes we might not even recognize intellectually that we feel anxiety, but the heart rate, our pulse, the sweat, that'll tell us, like the physical aspects might even tell us. So she's hurt and angry, and we get panic and anxiety, and the first thing we go to is apologize. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I said that. I'm sorry I didn't say that sooner. I'm sorry I said that way. I'm sorry that song is on the radio. Sorry. And then it's like, pause. Did it help? And it doesn't work exactly like this, but for some of us, it's almost this mechanical of like, we're walking through the flowchart in fits and starts. Like, everything's calm. She's angry. Uh-oh. Apologize. Did it help? Next piece. And okay, did it help? Yes. That says, right? Relief. I feel relief. I feel like I can exhale and breathe and not hold my breath because my apology helped. And that takes us back to our end game. Looks like she's calm again. Right? And that one simple little thing will play out in real time with a couple on the way to the grocery store, right? And something comes on the radio and she goes, ah, and he's driving along and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And she goes, thank you. Just turn the radio off. And then he turns the radio off. He goes, I'm really sorry. And she goes, it's okay. We're all right. Let's just go to the grocery store. Whew. She's calm. And now the clock reset. The flowchart reset, right? There's nothing wrong with that per se, except if we're actually operating in this flowchart manner, if we're operating with the end game being her staying calm, then we're always just right on the precipice of the bottom falling out. And some of y'all have heard me say this before. For a lot of guys, that's how we operate, is like playing defense. We're always just walking around hoping today goes okay and the bottom doesn't fall out, and hoping that song doesn't come on the radio, and hoping that we don't see somebody we know at the store, and hoping the halftime show won't be that triggering, and whatever your thing is. And it's like, if this is my end game, and don't miss this, if this is my end game, I am very, very powerless. Because I'm always at the whim of the world out here. I'm always at the whim of my next mistake. I am a powerless, helpless individual that just walks around crossing his fingers, hoping something doesn't happen. And every wife can sense that. Every wife can sense. She knows when that's how he's operating. Right? She knows when everything he does, when it gets difficult, feels like it's just trying to placate her and just get her to calm down. And it's infuriating, right? So she gets hurt and angry. This triggers panic, anxiety. He apologizes. Did it help? No. Uh-oh. Okay. Use logic. So more panic, right? Start using logic. And this will be, guys, we'll use logic on the most ridiculous things. And guilty as charged, we'll start using logic on the radio. Well, it's on 95.7 when usually it's on 100.3, and I don't know who changed it, but it must have been our son when he got in the car with his best friend the other day, and they took the car to go get ice cream. And it's like, what are we talking about? Right? We're just trying to like logic her out of it. Or let's say it has to do with the song. We'll go down the path of like, well, the other woman, that's the song that she listened to, and she played it for me, but I didn't want to hear it, but I didn't tell her to turn it off, and I never bought her the CD or downloaded the song on iTunes, but she sent it to me one time in a text. And it's like we're just trying to logic her out of what she's feeling. And then it's like we come up with something, and like we kind of, right? And it's like, did it help? And again, for some of us, it literally is that mechanical where we go, period. We're looking just to see, like driving down the road, like, did it help? Is she okay? Did it make a difference? Is she calm? Right? And like, she can sense that, right? And so did it help? No. Okay. And now remember what Jason said in one of the webinars, humble ownership. Okay. You know what? I'm sorry. The song is on me. I shouldn't have done it. I turned it to 95.7. This is on me. And for a lot of guys right here, when our humble ownership is born out of panic, it becomes incredibly insincere. Now, we may mean it, but the way that it delivers is usually very insincere. Again, feeling like a clamoring to try to make everything calm again, right? So that humble ownership kicks in. Okay, I'm sorry, this is on me, it's my fault, I changed the radio station, There's almost this thing of like, did I say the right thing now? Did it help? Right? Say it right. Right? That's where some guys go. Right? It didn't help. No. Okay. I know what to do now. Practice empathy. This is that whole empathy class. I've taken it 7 times. And so I know what to do. This is where I pivot and I go to empathy. Hey, I know the song was really hurtful, and that stupid DJ, and I can't believe he played that. So it's from 97. Would you believe he played? Anywho, I know it's my fault, and I know that's really hard for you. It's really hard for you every time the song comes on the radio, especially those lyrics, because those lyrics remind you of what I did, and what I did was this, and then do you want to relive it all again? Because I really hurt for you. And it's like, even our best attempts at empathy, when this is the end game, fall flat. Like we miss. And again, there's usually genuineness in the effort, but we're not really connected to our heart and thus connecting to her heart and trying to integrate with her. We're just trying to say what we know we're supposed to say and what Thomas taught us to say in the class so that we get back to the end game. Right? Did that help? Yes. And unfortunately, when this happens, some wives get to a point where they get right here, and their response right here is to give up. We'll go, I'm so sorry in the song, and then we try to practice empathy and pivot, and some wives right there will just go, thank you. And he's going like, oh, it looks like she's better. You're better? Yep, I'm better. Thanks. I know you're trying. So some wives, they get there, and all they know to do so that it doesn't end up going further south and they get more punished and their heart gets more trampled at that point, all they know to do is what I would call placate you or me. Like, throw you a bone because you tried. Because I know if I don't honor that you actually tried, I'm going to pay for it. So I'll be calm, throw you a bone, but I'm giving up, right? Terrible feeling, terrible place to be. Leaves even a husband who landed at that place kind of feels the uneasiness and how awkward it is at that point. And it's like, it feels okay because I know she's calm, which is the end game, but she's not really calm, and I know we're not okay, but and just yucky all the way around, right? Yucky all the way around. But if it doesn't help and she doesn't give up or placate, if she actually gets more angry, more hurt, more disappointed, then it's like, okay, well, now she's getting angry. Now I'm getting angry, right? She gets angry. But then I get angry. And this isn't all of our stories, but for some of us, when I'm really trying hard and it doesn't seem to be working, then I get angry and go to that place of like, well, I'm doing my best here. I'm doing exactly what Jason told me. I said verbatim the words Jason said to say the other day. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't help if the song comes on the radio. And then we get angry. Right? Then does that help? No. And then for some of us, our next step, like we're kind of moving our way mechanically through, our next step, it's almost predictable for some of us is start to shut down, shame spiral. Start to like circle the drain of shame. And then it gets even harder because once we get down in here, a lot of wives, they'll give up, right? And they'll start to placate. Right? A lot of wives will shift into an old, like familiar in y'all's relationship caretaker mode, where she'll go, you know what, it's okay. I know you're really trying, and this song wasn't your fault. The song came on, and they'll go back to that whole thing because. If they allow you to shame spiral, there's that same anticipatory fear that they're going to pay for this through acting in, through acting out, through your medicating, through withholding love, with stuff that you know that you do. Me too. Okay. So once we get down in here, then, does that help? No, now we're stuck. And for some of us, this is where like the old school pinball machine tilts, right? For some of us, this is where like our head explodes. It's like, I'm trying and I'm down the drain, and it's like everything just gets no. Like it all just ends there. Like nothing's helping, right? Then y'all start to cuss me out, and then it goes south, right? Sometimes, right? Sometimes it goes a different way. Like she's calm and she gets angry, then we apologize, and that doesn't help, and then we use logic, and that doesn't. Well, it helps a little bit. So then I just talk more. Then I just try to use more words, and I just try to say and explain, and usually that doesn't help, right? Then I hit that same dead end. Once in a blue moon, it does help, and there's like a false hope in that for a lot of guys. Is like one time recently, I used logic and did a lot of talking and explaining, and it seemed to make a difference. Yes, Like, yes, it helped, right? And then that time when it helped, I added a little humor after a fact, and I, made some quirky comment about the radio, and we both chuckled and went on about our day, and that helped, yes, and it reset. We were calm. We had a good rest of the day. And then we come back and repeat that and go through the flow chart again. I know how it works. I do this, I do that, I say this, I say that, I talk more, and then I say a funny remark. But what if it doesn't help? Oh no. Okay, it didn't help. So now dismiss it. I'm sorry, I said that, I shouldn't have said that, and downplay everything. Go, whew, good thing that wasn't such a big deal as it could have been. I mean, that would have wrecked us 3 months ago. And so let's just dismiss it and downplay it. No, that didn't help. Okay, so apologize again. Wait a minute, that didn't help. Okay, talk more, use more logic. Tilt. And so I feel like for a lot of guys, we end up in a place where we say something to the effect of, it's not working. Like, it's not working. I'm doing what I'm being taught to do, and it's not working. And sometimes the truth is, it's just not, right? Sometimes that's the reality. What we're teaching isn't working. It's just not helpful. Sometimes, though, it's that actually we're operating in this sort of like flow chart mentality, doing the things, taking the steps, walking through the mechanics of it. But our end game is wrong, first of all. And our execution to get there is motivated from the wrong place internally. Right? It's motivated from the wrong place internally. Because this whole chart, if you will, is all oriented. I don't know where to write it or say it, but like this whole thing is oriented around a task. The task is get back to calm. And if you've watched some of the other videos, you would hear us talk about like a task orientation in a process situation. That a task has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it has a linear line that's sequential, that B follows A and C follows B. And if I walk sequentially through from the beginning to the middle to the end, then I ought to end up somewhere that's, again, linear, that has a closure to it. That once I'm finished with that, it moves out, and now I start a new process. And it almost becomes robotic, right? Almost becomes robotic. Some of y'all have heard me tell the story. This is true for me early in our recovery, and in kind of mid-recovery, 6-7 years in our process too, where I got in this mindset of like, there's certain things I can say and certain ways that I can say them that seem to make a difference for Shelley, and they're meaningful. That's why I do the add humor in there, because, I could say some funny little comments that we would both chuckle at. And frankly, I started using them to substitute for actually doing heart work. Rather than being connected to my heart and God and her heart, I started to use the tools to substitute. Because the truth is, if the tools work and I actually go through the flow chart correctly, it's a fast resolution without much pain. She's upset, I apologize, crack a joke, we're good. I don't have to feel a lot in that. She doesn't have to feel a lot in that, which again is sincere and genuine. I don't want her to hurt. I want her to hurt as little as she has to. So if I can apologize and say a quick funny thing and then we get back to normal, that's good for everybody, right? And I was guilty of that 6-7 years in our process too. Everything that came up where Shelley was hurt and angry, I'd apply the same tool. Apologize, say something funny. Apologize, say something funny. And then what I came to realize as we dug in more and did more recovery work is that actually is broken. Of course, I don't want her to hurt, or as little as possible. I want to hurt as little as possible. But our relationship needed us to hurt together. And I don't want y'all to miss that. I'm speaking to husbands here. Some of the wives, I'm speaking to you too. A lot of wives, you already know. there's something that happens that is actually healing when she's hurting and I hurt with her, and we walk through that. Not for the sake of getting back to the calm, that's not our end game, for the sake of intimacy, for the sake of integration, for the sake of closeness and relationship. Like that is the end game. And that, in the grand scheme of things, that is process. That is process. There's no defined beginning, middle, and end. It's not sequential. It's a mess. When one thing is done, it's not gone and now there's a new thing. It's those things layer on top of each other. It is a process, okay? And the way that if I were going to kind of draw it out, if you will, the way that I would do that, and this is still too formulaic, y'all, but for the sake of our conversation, if I were to start to draw this out, what I would say is she's calm and then she's hurt and angry. And what we do is we jump all the way over to here. Our starting point is I connect to myself and to God first, which may take seconds sitting in the driver's seat while we're on our way to the grocery store and the song comes on the radio. First and foremost, I hadn't said it in a while. There it is again. I got to connect with me, my heart, and God. I might need to, in that moment, prayerfully, first thing, just go, okay, God, help. Because that stupid song is on the radio. And then I got to connect to what's going on in me. Okay, what we talked about is, right, quickly, and again, we get more ninja with this as we practice, I got to figure out what's going on in me. There's panic. There's anxiety. I feel powerless. I feel injustice, right? All that stuff is going on inside me in that moment. For some of us in that moment, what we've got to conceptualize and realize and hold right out in front of us is that when this happens, all of my identity is staked on her next sentence. For some of us, that's literally where we live. The song comes on and we hear it and we see it and we feel it from her. And now all of a sudden, our entire personhood rests on how she delivers or what she delivers in her next sentence. That's a problem. A, because our identity isn't based on how she engages us, ultimately. But B, because she doesn't need that pressure. She can feel the pressure. When your identity hangs in the balance of her response, that is entirely too much pressure. So first we connect with God and ourselves, connecting to our own heart about, oh, I hate that. I can't believe, and this doesn't feel fair. And whatever goes on, there's that panic. Then we're connecting to her heart, her pain, her experience. That's our second move. And look at the contrast, y'all. I apologize. And then I try to use logic. I'm just going like sequentially. I apologize and that didn't work. So then I use logic. Over here, I might not have even said anything yet. I don't even know what I'm apologizing for over here. I'm just apologizing because that's what I'm supposed to do. Over here, I don't know apology. The first couple of things I'm doing is connecting to my heart and to God and to her heart and listening. Way more than I'm talking. Way more than I'm talking. Now, there's going to be a moment when I'm on the spot and I need to talk, but it's not here yet. It's just not there yet. This is our starting point. Yes, I'm engaging empathy as I'm listening, and I'm engaging empathy from the standpoint of what her experience is in all of this. Not trying to use the tool, although tools are helpful in the off season, so to speak, right? But I am engaging him. I'm letting my heart walk through the pain that she's feeling, okay? And then I'm seeking to understand. I got to understand what it is that she's experiencing. And if I don't understand, I got to ask. And y'all know, sometimes this really is infuriating for a wife. but your delivery matters there, right? It's one thing to go, I don't get it. Why? I don't get why the song's a big deal. It's just a song. That's very different than I don't understand, but I want to. So help me know what happens inside you, because I want to know what happens inside you. Like there's a difference between those two things, right? Then I'm moving into, we've talked about before, to hear and understand and validate. The more that I can hear and understand and affirm, or I mean, that's what the acronym is, right? Hear, understand, and affirm. I can validate what she's experiencing. There's a place for me to apply humble ownership. Because once I know what it is that she's experiencing, I know what I need to own. Then I can maybe move into conversation. Maybe now is the time when I talk, because I can validate. I can speak to what I own. I can reassure her of where things are today, or reassure her of my ownership of those past things. And then I'm at that point sitting in pain with unmet needs. I'm sitting in pain with unmet needs. If your end game is she's calm, what you're really saying is, I get to sit in a comfortable place with no pain. That's not our goal. Our goal is intimacy, is integration and connectedness. The backside of all of this work is probably that I'm sitting in the driver's seat on the way to the grocery store with the stupid song that came on the radio, sitting in pain. That's not the Care Bears and Rainbows outcome that we're often looking for. I don't have to resolve it so that it feels better. I don't have to convince her that it's not what it used to be, or I'm not the guy I used to be, or that this is really hard for me too. Some guys will do that, right? They'll go to, I know it's hard for you to hear that song. Do you know how hard it is for me to hear the song on the radio? I have to be reminded of what all I've done, and now we're shame spiraling again, right? Does that help? No. We're sitting in pain. And then on some level, this restarts the clock. Because in that pain, I'm connecting to God. I'm prayerfully engaging what I'm experiencing right now. I'm connecting to my heart. Yeah, there might be panic, anxiety, powerlessness, and injustice, but there's also deep sorrow now. And there's regret. And there's remorse. And there's like this overwhelming sense of like despondency that hits me. E-N-T, A-N-T, I don't know. There's a sense of despondency that hits me when I'm like rocked by the gravity of, I broke us this badly for the grammar teachers. I'm sitting in that. But then while I'm sitting in that, guess who else is sitting in that? So now I'm connecting to what she's experiencing, which gives me a chance to listen to what she's experiencing. And that gives me a chance to engage empathy. That gives me a chance to seek to understand. Because, there's layers, right? There's layers. And the first pass of the conversation about that song on the way to the grocery store might be all there is. Or there might be 9 more layers. So we get through one pass, so to speak, which is process, right? There's not a beginning, middle, and end. It's ongoing, right? And so we kind of come back through. Tell me more. And then y'all heard some of us talk about how it spiderwebs, right? So then it spiderwebs out. What we were actually talking about was the song on the radio. The song on the radio reminded us of when we were dating 27 years ago. And 27 years ago, we used to go to that restaurant and have that sandwich. And now what we're walking through is the pain of the Monte Cristo. I don't know, I'm making it up, but you guys get what I'm saying. And now we're walking through something else. And the end result of that is Monte Cristos are ruined. Feels like. And now I'm sitting in pain with unmet needs. Not on the silly, simple layer of like, I can't have my favorite sandwich anymore, but on the layer of like another level of brokenness in our relationship. But I can be connected to that. And I can be before God on that. And oh, that also reminds you of when our first child was born. Tell me more. I want to hear. Right? That's where process orientation is important, because the end game is intimacy. Not getting back to calm, not making sure we're okay. It's actually being connected as we walk through this pain. It's assumed, like, y'all, we're not still in the place of the hurtful song comes on the radio and we're just going to ignore it and hope it goes away and not bring it up, right? Like we're moving beyond that. We're growing up from that stuff. Okay. So I'm assuming that that's already happened because the song came on the radio and I know it's that song. Now, listen, sometimes I'm speaking for the guys here. Sometimes you don't know. You didn't realize the song was playing on the radio and she's steaming 3 feet across the seat from you, or a foot and a half on the other side of the console. She's losing her mind and you're just whistling along, cruising down the road. You just didn't catch it. You didn't see it. You didn't hear it. You didn't realize. That happens. That happens. Then all of a sudden she's like, I can't believe you. And you're like, what? That happens. But that's fewer and farther between. Our reality here is like, that song came on the radio. Everybody in the car knew. Kids in the back seat knew something. They didn't know everything. You follow me. So that's over here assumed. That's just automatic. We went from she's calm to she's hurt and angry because there's some triggering event. We're engaging that. And that engagement then starts here, right? The other reason I'm highlighting this, the other reason I'm camping on this is because I'm seeing that familiar thing. And again, guilty. I lose sight of this sometimes too. Our starting point is here. Our starting point is connection to our own heart. A lot of guys, when they go through, this, and this iteration, what's deeper down in there really is good. It genuinely is good for a lot of guys in a lot of situations. It's like if she's triggered and we start to apologize and talk and we get frantic and frenetic and we're just like, and we're trying to make it better. If what we would do is bypass all of that or tap the brakes on all of that and first go here, for some of us, instead of all of that stuff, what would come out of our mouth first is, I can't believe I got us here. And then she's going, got us where? You're still worried about the map? I can't believe you're just worried about directions. And you're going, no. Here. I just can't believe I got us here. And now when you say, I hate this. I hate this for you. I cannot believe I created a space where we can't even get to the grocery store without pain. I'm not going to say I'm sorry because I'm sorry is not good enough. Like when you've hit that place, it's not about saying the right words. It's not about your delivery. It's not about did you use the right logic? Did you explain it well enough? It's not about any of that because she can sense, and most wives, given the context, if it's a nuclear trigger, maybe not so much, right? But she can sense that you connected to, you're rocked by the impact of what that thing is. And if she sees that you're rocked by it, not shame spiraling because of it, but you're feeling the gravity of that, it's almost like she can let you absorb it in a way that she doesn't have to bear so much of it. I know that's really abstract, and some of y'all, you've experienced it, and you know what I'm talking about. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but I know it when I see it, that whole thing. I know it when I feel it. You can bypass a whole lot of problematic stuff if your first place is connecting to your own heart.